But again, thank you for having me. Usually, we do digital talks. I think for the past 10 years, everyone has been very much anchored wanting to learn about digital transformation. I think this afternoon, I'll share with you a snapshot of where the Philippines is, how digital has evolved through the years. I will also share with you a lot of examples and anecdotes so you can learn from and you can take away. Okay, so I'll be very quick with my slides. As a professor, I also speak very fast. If some of you, because it's after lunch, if you want to meditate, that's fine, but don't, just be quiet. Okay, so how I was introduced, I used to be with ABS-CBN. I was Chief Digital Officer. I handled ABS-CBN's digital efforts for the past, for 4 years, so from 2013 to 2017. And that time, very, very interesting. I learned a lot, especially those of you who know, during my time, it was also the height of ALDAB. So imagine that, sila yung kalaban ko. Right, so I thought I was going to be fired. No? As you know, ALDAB was Guinness Book of World Records for the most number of tweets. And that's why I learned digital the hard way. Because I was head of digital and they were all expecting me to do something. And what I always tell them, it's not about just making something tweet. Or when you post something on social media, it still has to be anchored on the right content or the right business, right? You cannot just artificially create tweets. You can, but I don't like doing that. And of course, there are a lot of fun side of the entertainment business and also sports, ABS-CBN sports, entertainment, music. No? But on the news side, there's also the more serious side of it, especially, for example, during the presidential elections in 2016. I run a 25-man team just for social media. So that time, we were monitoring all your social mentions, your Facebook posts, your Twitter posts, and we would always say that even a month before the election, we already knew who will win. Duterte will win. By virtue of overlaying the total number of social media mentions with the quantitative SWS data, we already know that he will win by virtue of the trajectory and the volume of people just on social talking about him. We also, for example, have seen even all the way up to the gender, up to the age group, and even to the geography. So what we're seeing is very interesting because in the Philippines, later I'll show you some numbers, but the Philippines, we're a very social media country. We're very social, and by virtue of that, a lot of mining, a lot of customer mining, data mining we get from that. No? When we talked about just to quickly talk about the elections, even during the if you remember the halalan, so we were having the presidential debates. Usually, anyone would, any traditional station would say, tweet us or text us your questions to the presidential candidate. We'll try to ask it for you. What we were doing that time was that even for each candidate, we just look at the total number of mentions and the tweets, and we would look at which is the most popular, and we would already ask that. Right? We don't even need to tell people to just text us your votes or tweet us your votes. Because by virtue of the number of volume about a particular issue, about a particular candidate, and if it's positive or negative, we're able to actually use that data already. So we're seeing already that time, it's a very much changing landscape altogether. And in fact, it was able to, we have a social media president, a leader who was elected through social media in a way. Before, a lot of the elections, if you spend the most on television, you will win. But right now, we're seeing less and less of that, and a lot on digital. Right now, I'm the country CEO for Dentsu Aegis Network. So Dentsu is the biggest Japanese advertising agency in Japan. 6 years ago, they bought Aegis, which is the biggest British. It's based in UK, London. It's the biggest media agency. So that was like Japan signaling to the world that we're going up for the world market. So in Dentsu Aegis, I handle 7 agencies, so 7 CEOs report to me. And because there are 2 creative agencies, because they handle competing brands, and also media agencies, digital agency, and an out-of-home. Denso, by virtue of the Japanese lineage, we handle most of the Japanese brands here. So who do you think are the top 3 advertisers? Japanese advertisers, top 3 Japanese brands. Take a guess.
Japanese.
Capcom.
Uniqlo is number 2. Toyota is number 3. Nissan is number 6. You know who number 1 is? Ajinomoto. There's money in MSG, by the way. number one advertiser. Like they use all the celebrities, and they buy a lot of TV spots and everything. Right, Ajinomoto. Yakult used to be one of the top advertisers, but they are always out of stock, so they don't advertise anymore. Okay. And then, of course, by virtue of ages, we handle Mondelez, Abbott, among many other brands, currently around 100 brands across the 7 agencies. So that gives you a snapshot of my perspective. It's very much, I come from the media, marketing, and the advertising side of overall business. So let me start my presentation with this very interesting guy who needs no introduction except for our foreigner friends. Who is this? If Jose Rizal were to be alive today, what do you think would be his job, or what would you think would be his occupation? Most likely he would be a columnist in a newspaper, right? Because he likes to write, right? So he likes to write. But we know that beyond writing, he's also very much active from a political side. So we're sure that he would be also on radio. Radio, like for example, Dear MOR, right? Because he's known as a lot of girlfriends. Right? And of course, like action ngayon, right? Challenging the government to act, or challenging the Catholic Church. We most likely would also be on television, right? Something like a Tapatan Tunig or maybe the Filon ngayon of today. Right? But with the advent of digital, we're almost sure that he would also have his own blog. The Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo would have been way, way longer, right? And he would just keep on writing and writing. We're also sure that he would also be on a podcast. So every day after his radio show, he would still be recording a lot of things. He would also have Periscope, where wherever he is in prison, he would be saying, okay, this is how Spain looks or how Dapitan looks. And of course, we're sure that he's also on Twitter, so he would be tweeting from time to time. And of course, we're sure that he would be on Facebook also. He would be friends with Graciano Lopez Haina and others. And of course, he would be both Sakit Tabita, Leonor Rivera, and Segunda Patimbak would be responding Uliganan. So that gives you an idea, right? If our national hero, when you empower with digital, in fact, if you look at it, he changed mindsets to a pen. But if you look at if he were to be alive today, how much more he could have done. Right? So let me take you through when I talk about digital. I always usually like to start with a phrase that was coined by Herman Kahn. Herman Kahn is an international futurist, and he talks about surprise-free futures. What are surprise-free futures? These are much anticipated shifts that never arrive on schedule. People convince themselves that it will not arrive. But by the time it arrived, people were unsurprised, but woefully unprepared. It tells us that all of us have that power of premonition, that sometimes we tell ourselves something will happen, but when it didn't happen at the expected time, we tell ourselves it won't happen anymore. But when it finally happened, then we tell ourselves, sabi ko na nga ba, I told you so. Right? We were not surprised, but we were unprepared. In the political front, he talks about two of the biggest surprise-free future, the fall of communism and the rise of China. That in the 1990s, they were saying that China is a sleeping dragon, it will soon be awakened, you have to learn Mandarin, and you have to really plan for the opening of China. And you would see that in the headlines of most of the magazines in Forbes at that time, 1990, 91, 92, 93. But nothing happened. So people said, oh, finally, they won't open up anymore. But in 97, 98, 99, with the annexation of Hong Kong and Macau, later on China opened up. Everyone's scrambling towards, going to China and trying to set up their factories, their plants, their manufacturing, and trying to look at how China is a business venture for them. People were not surprised, but they were unprepared. In the business front, he talks about the biggest surprise-free future, which is the internet. He tells us that the internet will shape everything, how we live, how we conduct work. But the big question is, how much of ourselves are we really preparing in understanding this beast, what he calls the beast, which is the internet. You know already that you are already living on the internet. Most of us are living on the internet. But how we do work and how we do everything, right? Or how are we really maximizing technology? In my experience working with the biggest brands, and you name it, my clients will be Universal, Procter & Gamble, and many others. I've been spearheading digital transformation in our community. In fact, I'm one of the founders of IMAP, which is the Internet and Mobile Marketing Association. Today is our last day of Digicon. 3,000 people in the PICC talking about digital transformation. I've been pushing digital transformation for the past 10 years and working with so many companies. Even up to today, I realized so many companies still ask me to give a talk on digital. And I said, you invited me 5 years ago, and 4 years ago, and 3 years ago, and I keep on telling digital, why are you inviting me again? Apparently nothing has happened. And somehow you get to understand digital because it's something they don't really understand. They're very good with their core business, but they don't understand what is really happening in digital. So after working with so many companies, finally I understand why, if you look at a lot of organizations today, and I can say maybe 80% at least of organizations today are not yet digital. And why is that? I blame it on what I call the Great Divide. What is this Great Divide? What is the picture there? That is the card catalog in the library. The Great Divide will be those who have used it before in school and you were doing your research, and those who think it is a cabinet with scratch paper. Those who were born 1984 down are what we call digital immigrants. They were born during the time of this. They know what this is. They know the connection between that and that. At work, they've used this before. At work. Have you used it? And for the ladies, their childhood crush is this guy. Who's that? Ano channel? Nine. No. Great Divide. Those who know him and those who do not know him. Right? Those who were born 1984 down are what we call digital immigrants. They were born during the time of WordStar and have used a pager. And when the internet came around, they immigrated to the internet. Those who were born 1984 up are what we call digital natives. When they got into awareness, digital was there. And they will never imagine a time that there's no internet. So today, in many organizations, the natives would be proposing a lot of digital ideas and projects. However, the immigrants hold the budget. And in many cases, a lot of ideas, immigrants said, wait, okay, let's look at the budget. We don't have budget yet, let's do it next year. And next year becomes easy. Right? After 10 years, nothing has happened. Or in many cases, in my experience, the bigger organizations, they would say, okay, let's give a little, what I call loose change. So we have a few savings here and there, give it to digital. The digital people would say, okay, we'll take it rather than nothing. And of course, they will fail because they were not funded right. And then the immigrants would say, oh, see, it's not yet ready. And this is happening across all organizations. But what we're seeing is that, however, that tidal wave of a digital consumer, of the infrastructure, is already changing. Before, when you, for example, would go to a concert, in the 1990s, when you go to a concert, you would sing and raise your hands and dance to the music. Now it's all about handphones and gadgets up. Before, it was all about experiencing the moment. Now it's all about capturing the moment. It's all about social proof. I remember the time when Madonna was here some years ago, and I tell people I could take attendance on Facebook on who my friends were there. Because it is almost impossible that they are there and they will not post on Facebook. Right? Because that is the only time they can justify to themselves their ROI. Right? Why would you buy a ticket worth 30,000 or 50,000 and you won't post? Right? It's impossible. You will post. And what we're seeing already is that as things have evolved, there was a time that the entire family was watching television in the living room, and some of you may have experienced that. Today, you have to accept the fact that the television has been demoted to become the second screen. The primary screen is now the mobile phone. And what I tell people is that during my time in ABS-CBN, this is something I post on my wall because that is something that scares us every day. We have to accept the fact that what brought us to our level of success today for the past 65 years will not be the reason for our success 5 years down the line. We have to make a digital pivot. We have to transform the company and we have to take it with deep urgency. Only because we are forward-facing. We are facing consumers and they will not wait. They will just tune out of television. Before, when we were doing our studies, a lot of people were buying houses and condominiums and real estate. The first appliance is always the television. Today, the ranking in terms of choice of appliance, the television has gone down from number 1 to number 7. They can actually live without the television. And it is very scary when your primary product is television and provinciano. Before, just be careful, be careful with my heart. So to those who say that digital is not yet here, what I would always tell them is to take a look on a typical Sunday when you're having lunch or dinner with your families. Your kids or your grandkids do not talk to you anymore. What I would always say is that you take a gadget away from a child and all hell will break loose. But if you give every child a gadget, there will be peace on earth. It has become the modern day pacifier. Right? When you're in a family event, as long as every child has a gadget, no one will be running around and shouting. Everyone will just be playing. So, having said all of this and having contextualized all of this, what we're seeing in marketing is that even the most fundamental theories created by man has already been challenged. Take, for example, Maslow's hierarchy of need. What we're seeing already is that during our consumer studies, if you give a teenager a 100 peso allowance for the day, the first 15 pesos goes to unlimited internet, then food, then they will decide afterwards if whatever they will write, the safety pamasahe. Right? So it always internet, food, and then what they will use as a transportation from house to house to their school. So with that, now we're seeing already even now a lot of the brands like a telco company, for example, like a Globe, anchors their entire business strategy on a free Facebook. And later on, of course, smartphone back and free YouTube naman, no? So we're seeing all of that landscape changing. And more later on, we will push the envelope and I will show you how different industries are being affected by this so-called beast, the internet. Let me give you a perspective of the Philippines. So just for our foreigner friends, just for your appreciation, how the Philippines is looking when it comes to digital. Currently, with 107 million Filipinos, 76 million are already online. In many cases, the industry has been challenging this number because it was quite high. But yet, more and more, all of the studies, all of the research are now supporting that 70% of the Filipinos are already online. And what we're seeing is that when you talk about digital, it's all about social. So social is very strong. When you ask a poor Filipino, those who belong to the poverty, they would say, when you talk about internet, Facebook. Right? It's very automatic to them. In fact, the Philippines ranks the highest worldwide in terms of time spent on social. We actually average around 4 hours, not even 4. When you average it up, it's 5. It's 4.8 hours a day on social media. So if 20 years ago, we are the text capital of the world, today we call ourselves the social media capital of the world by virtue of social media intensity, social media usage. I'm sure that after the end of my talk, most of you would have gone to your phones and checked your Facebook or checked any accounts at least 10 times in a span of 1 hour. In fact, the average Filipino checks at least 280 times a day. At least 200, check your phones 280 times a day. If you also look at by sheer number, in the Philippines, the average number of social media accounts is 10. Do you have 10? You have Facebook, and you have your unofficial Facebook, right? And then you have your Facebook gaming account, and most likely you'll have Twitter, you'll have Instagram, girls would have Pinterest. Some of you who are gamers would be on Twitch, right? But then when they look at social media accounts, they included also the chat apps, which would be Viber, WhatsApp, what else? WeChat, Telegram, right? So you would have 10, give or take, right? And what do you do on social media? So most of the people who are on social media, 61%, is really to fill up spare time. As if man, you have a lot of spare time, but that's the reality. You have a lot of spare time. And you know what they constitute spare time? Spare time is that 5-second wait from ground floor to the 10th floor. Is spare time. And you would be checking. Because it's like where you are just standing on the elevator. So right now, if you go to the elevator, impossible that you are not checking your phone. Right? So you have spare time to look at content, and many others, check out your friends. Just for context, this is very much Philippine context, 75 million on Facebook, so this is the ratio. 11 on Instagram, 5 million on Twitter. Twitter used to be at 15 million. But after it got what they call too nega in the last elections, among many other situations. So people opted out of Twitter. So it's in the Philippines is now very much Facebook country, seconded by Instagram. However, and also on the other side, we are seeing already from a brand perspective that each platform serves a distinct purpose. Facebook is really an infotainment to engagement. Messenger is for connected experiences. YouTube for entertaining content. Twitter would be real-time moments. LinkedIn for professionals. Instagram would be connecting with passion. So for example, when we handle brands on social media, for example, if you're a restaurant, you do not copy-paste content, even if you have an account for each. Maybe your Facebook account would be about your promotions and all the other announcements. But for example, your Twitter is usually breaking news. Instagram would be just food shots, right? So connecting with passions, how you create your food. So really the content of what you put on social media is also different. So we don't like copy-pasting content across the different social media platforms. And on the other side, you're saying that Facebook is now claiming that they're comparable to TV networks.
Yeah.
You go to ABS and GMA would be averaging around 50 million people. Then Facebook may be right that their reach is already at 75 million. And because of that, things have changed, have really changed. When you want to keep in touch through words, you tell people, hintayin ko sagot mo sa sulat. Now, it's all about nag-reply na ako sa comment mo, message na kita sa FB. Before, when it was all about sharing memories, it was gawin mong dalawa, yung copy pag nag-develop ka sa Kodak. Now, it's all about tag mo ako, gandaan mo filter. And if you think about that generation, from one generation to the next, right? From the first to the second, most of us understood that. No? But in fact, actually, the Gen Z, those who were 1994 up, the Gen Z, they will not experience a typewriter nor Kodak anymore. And having said that, we're seeing how Facebook has changed. More users are using social for brand and product information than search. We're seeing that those who are 30 and above, when you talk about search, it's automatic Google. The younger ones search on social media, which gave way to the rise of a lot of marketplaces emerging on Facebook. If you, for example, we've seen that shift before, let's say a 16, 17-year-old who wants to study in Ateneo, before, the top search after graduation is condos around Katipunan, was one of the higher search term in Google. Now, the condos near Katipunan is now a top search term on Facebook. So that has shifted already. No? So the mothers and the parents would search on Google, the kids would search on Facebook. So Facebook is slowly becoming also a search platform. So mobile is driving access. So like what I told you earlier, we were challenging the number, but how could 70% of the Filipinos are online? And true enough, what we saw was that in 2017, the mobile smartphone users have increased tremendously. In 2017, that was one of the tipping points when the cheapest smartphone reached 1,000 pesos, right? $20. And by doing that, even the masa, the poorer D market, which constitutes 70% of the Philippine population, immediately had access to the internet, and by virtue of they simply go to an SM or any of our malls, they're already given free Wi-Fi. So they are really now users. And what we're seeing is that Filipinos are living life on mobile devices and spending more time on screens than other people. So they would always be on their phones at any point in time, like what I said, any spare time that you have. And these are the what they call micro moments. The micro times that you are available, even if it's just 1 minute, you will actually be on your phone and nothing else. And that is why today, and there's an app for every need. Today, whatever you do and wherever you're going, you are now fully dependent on your phone. 20 years ago, when there was call and text, we were joking that if you leave your phone, you would have to go back to the house and get it. Today, I would always say, it is impossible that you will leave your phone because it is always with you, even when you're in the shower. Right? It has become a body part. Right? And in many cases, that's why you don't even leave your phone anywhere else. It is always with you. And what we're seeing is that with all of this new technology coming in, it has served as a displacement effect. Meaning that, are you using, for example, Grab?
Yes.
Right? If you use Grab, you will never go back to taxis. If you're on Netflix, you will never go back to television. In fact, I remember Converge had a problem last weekend. And my kids, 14, 13, and 7, they have a problem with the internet. So when we open the television, there's no internet, we cannot use Netflix. And they said, okay, what do we do? And I said, there's still television. I said, oh, TV, all right, we forgot. Right, you can still watch because we're still on Sky Cable, but they forgot about it already. Right, that there's people. For them, it was automatic. When they own the TV, it is already Netflix. So we're seeing how the younger ones are now being owned and really looking at the purely digital in terms of their life context. And what we're seeing is that content is now ruling everything else. Content and streaming have become more accessible. 99% of Filipinos watch online videos. In terms of online videos, the Philippines is one of the highest consumers, and later on talk more about that. No? They stream TV content via the internet, play games stream via internet, and more interesting, they watch live stream of others playing games. One of the fastest rising in the Philippines is watching people play games. Even if, and all of these habits are very dominant, even if the Philippines ranks lowest in the world in terms of internet streaming, which tells you about how patient Filipinos are. I would always tell people, imagine if our internet would be as fast, maybe as South Korea, how much the Filipinos can do and achieve. Right? But if you think about it, Filipinos are, we're very submissive, even if it's buffering, okay, that's fine. Okay lang, right? We're not like too complain. But sabi ko, if you look at the US, nag-buffer lang yan, you sue them na. You say, oh, this is the fine print, you're not following, right? In terms of your SLAs, no? Your service level agreements. Okay? And audiences are demanding live content. Something very interesting is that what we've seen because of Facebook Live. Initially, when Facebook Live was introduced by Facebook, we thought that it was just, yeah, it was nice. But then what we're seeing more and more is that people, even for brands, remember a lot of brands post, we manage a lot of brands on social media. When we post videos, that's okay, but when it's a live video, they appreciate more. We're seeing already even Lazada is now doing live selling on Facebook, yes. Even if they have their main platform. So live is one of the biggest trends that we are seeing from a digital marketing perspective. So a reality check is that many media activities, like what I've said earlier, that we do are neither happening sequentially nor in isolation. Most of us, when we are doing something, when we're watching, I always tell people, my dissertation was on media studies. Today we don't watch TV anymore, we surf TV. Right? So rarely would we be so glued to the TV and not do anything else. Maybe except for Game of Thrones. Otherwise, right, we would be doing a lot of other things, no? Which means we would be on social media, we would be texting, we would be chatting with someone, we would be reading names, among many others. For this year, from a trend perspective, was actually the breakthrough of what we call the rise of e-commerce. So out of the 70% of the Filipinos who are online, 39% have already tried going online and have bought something. Yep. Lazada being, of course, the biggest. So what happens with Lazada is that, again, very interesting play. People are selling a lot of products, but more and more brands are going in. So they're creating their own profile. Before, a lot of brands said, create my Facebook page. Now, a lot of our clients, weirdly, are telling me, okay, can you help us create our Lazada account, our Lazmall account? So that is something we never thought of, but a lot of the Unilever and all of Johnson & Johnson, all of them have a Lazada account already. So before, we thought e-commerce would not fly in the Philippines. We don't have credit cards. And then, of course, Lazada disrupted it by doing cash on delivery. Right? So that has totally shifted in terms of the mindset. And in terms of e-commerce, it's now 120 billion pesos online this year. Of course, half would be Cebu Pac and Pal. Right? Half would be airlines, and a big chunk would still be hotels, travel, anything that has to do with travel. We're seeing up and rising would be the clothing and accessories, and then of course beauty products. By virtue of that, almost every conglomerate have already started dipping their feet into e-commerce. SM has acquired a stake in Tugo. We're seeing Robinson's Retail invests in Beauty M&L. SL, Agritech, Sterling, Wise, Openovate, and Galleon AH. Ayala completes purchase of almost half, 49% of Zalora PH. So all of them are trying to double a bit into e-commerce already. And of course, Alibaba is by virtue of being the biggest giant, doubles Lazada investment 4 billion. So Alibaba bought Lazada, and of course smashing its Singles Day record. No? So every opportunity, whether it's 999, 10, 10, 10, 11, 11, 11, that's how they do their Guinness Book of World Record numbers. And like what I've said earlier, we're seeing how Lazada, a lot of brands are now starting to open their Lazada shops. No? So depends, we'll see how it goes, no? But they're officializing their setup already on all of these online stores. Whether right or wrong, whether it's efficient or not, but most of them are experimenting already. Let me now share with you a very interesting video that I've seen, that I've encountered. This is an Alibaba store. Alibaba actually, initially when they launched a video some months ago, they were showcasing their warehouse that is run by robots. So which means that if you buy something from Alibaba, technically a robot inside the warehouse would go to a particular shelf and get the product, and then later on would just deliver it to the service area for it to be delivered. The thing is, they said, if we have robots and we have this warehouse, why don't we face the consumer already? So Alibaba did a backward integration in a way and created their own mall. So their mall is called Hema, which is Hema, the Hema store. And this is what I say is going to be truly digital. When I talk about digital transformation, when I talk about digital, it is not just about creating a website, having a presence and selling something online. Having a digital means it is fully integrated with the entire selling experience. So I'll show you a quick video for you to appreciate Hema.
Store. The name, Hema.
Not only is the tech typing expanding into offline retail, but this location is the first with its own robot restaurant too.
Robots are actually delivering pretty much all the food.
That's where I'll end up after the shopping experience. The Hema store is growing rapidly in China, opening 65 locations in 1 year. There's 3 pillars to its strategy, serving as a place to shop in person, a distribution center for online orders, and the restaurant. It's hoping to define what the future of retail will look like. While I'm checking this out, I might as well grab a basket.
See what interests me. First thing I noticed is the pricing system. Every price tag has a barcode in which you can use the Hema app to scan the barcode and then see the price of the item online. You can also see reviews of that product. What's also fascinating is that even though these price tags look like they were printouts, it's actually a special technology that can change the price in real time.
And that's not all. It even tells you when it was delivered to the store and where it came from. You can also see a scan of a government certificate proving, for instance, if it was organic. It also shows delivery options if you decide not to buy it in store.
I just saw a lady who works for the store and she was fulfilling an online order. So using her scanner, she had a bag, she would pick the products, and then what was really crazy is instead of walking across the store to get it where it needs to go, she put it on a conveyor belt, which then took it to the ceiling, to the back area where then it will then go out for delivery. So essentially now you're talking about not only a retail store, but also a distribution center. And if you live within 3 kilometers of a Hema store, you can have delivery of your groceries within 30 minutes. You see a lot of employees walking around the store, fulfilling orders. I understand how it can maximize efficiency of sourcing, but it creates for a somewhat chaotic experience too when you have a lot of people running around. A lot of sample stations throughout the store. It's like a Costco, sample stations everywhere. At one point you ask yourself, why even come to the store then if everything is online and it's such an easy experience to just order from an app? Well, one reason that Chinese consumers prefer to come in store is for seafood. It's very important for the Chinese consumer to see firsthand their seafood, to make sure it's fresh. All right, so I picked two items that I'm going to go check out with. One of them is bananas, and then the other one is these Lay's potato chips. Italian red meat flavor. Why not try something new? There's literally no traditional cashier at this grocery store. It's not like you have an option between a cashier and self-checkout. So if you're looking for that human interaction, go somewhere else. Using the Huma app, which is connected to Alipay, the consumers will swipe their phone in front of the scanner, and that's pretty much it.
There's also the option to pay using your face, too. And now, let me try those chips.
It's actually a very subtle taste. It's not too strong, surprisingly.
Now it's time to try the robot restaurant. To get a table here, you can check in at a kiosk. You guessed it, using the app.
It's connected to your identity, your name, everything you've bought in the past, and of course your wallet. From there, you get assigned a table. Once you're assigned a table, you scan the barcode at the table, and then from there you can just start placing your order on the Huma app. So you're not waiting for anyone to come take your order, there's no pen and paper, any of that. In fact, you really have no interaction with a staff member. And then from there, the robots deliver your food. And you've already paid, it's all within the same app.
Alibaba leveraged its existing technology from the e-commerce automated warehouses to power these new robot restaurants.
It's really an entire ecosystem of robots that are working together pretty well. I have yet to see a collision.
Even the tablet at the table, in a way, is obsolete.
The only thing the tablet can really do is entertain you. There's games, which your phone probably has. You can call for a server if you need. You can use the tablet for that. And then there's also a demo of how the robots work as well.
The robots can't handle everything, though. For complicated dishes like soups, that'll require a human server.
Very interesting. Right? But when you talk about digital, right? Digital is not, again, it's not just about the website, right? But it's the entire system, the entire process. You talk about even all the way up to the back end, the sourcing, all the way up to the paperwork and everything, right? So that's how things have evolved through time. And that's what we always say, even in business school. We always say that you always have to prepare for the second curve. Ian Morrison, in his book called The Second Curve, tells us that making the most of current profits is the first curve in business. However, shifts in technology in the marketplace signify the second. What we're seeing is that most businesses today milk the first curve, meaning milk everything that you can because of the business that you have. But what you have to be cognizant of is by virtue of what's happening with technology and how all of you are changing, how all of you are becoming more and more digital, you have to prepare for the second curve. When I remember, the one who taught me this term was actually Gabby Lopez of ABS-CBN, our chairman, said, Donald, you take care of the second curve. Which means that the first curve of ABS-CBN would be television, radio, publishing, Sky Cable. So anything where the bread and butter was advertising. Second curve, you go digital, you're front-facing, you're already touching the customer, which means Kidzania, all our websites, or our digital assets, the DTT, the black box. And that time it was ABS Mobile, among many other initiatives. So we're seeing that before, 95% of our revenues comes from advertising. The plan was that in 5 years, only 50% would come from advertising, 50% would come from the consumer. So that was our battleground that time, when we were planning when we were doing our 5-year plan. So how has digital really disrupted? So let me give you an example. One of my favorite industry was actually the airline industry. So the airline industry until 1990s was actually very simple. One country, one national carrier. Philippines, Philippine Airlines. Singapore, Singapore Airlines. Very, very straightforward. However, in the mid-1990s, Herb Kelleher created Southwest. And that time, he disrupted the entire airline model. So what used to be, for example, from New York to LA would be $500, he made it 10% of the price, $50. So all of the big airlines saying, what are you doing, Herb? You're disrupting us, and how will you earn a profit? Because that time, because of the internet being available, everyone, Herb Kelleher was saying, I don't need all the traditional channels anymore. You can just come to me and buy online. So, of course, all of these big companies were saying that, no, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. But what happened? They were saying, in 2 years, you will become bankrupt. But what really happened? In 2 years, all of these major airlines were either merged or were acquired. Herb Kelleher was the one that is now becoming one of the bigger airlines. When you look at Asia, There were two, 1997, copy-pasted the model of Southwest, Tiger Airways and Air Asia. And that time, same, Singapore, Manila would be like $300, they made it like $30, $40, $50. Make it very cheap because they now use the internet as the access point for selling. I was very fortunate to have met both the CEOs that time of Tiger and Air Asia, Tony Davis and Tony Fernandez. So Tony Davis, I brought him here for a conference. 6 months after, I was in Indonesia and we had a marketing conference. I met Tony Fernandez there. What was more interesting was I was just with them and just very casual conversation, trying to make small talk. I asked them, how's the airline industry? Both of them, in two different occasions, said, oh, we are not in the airline industry. So I was surprised. I said, what do you mean you are not in the airline industry when you have so many airplanes? They said, we're not. So I said, then what industry do you consider yourself to be in? The two CEOs on two different occasions gave me the same answer. They said, we are in the internet retailing industry, and it just so happens we sell airline seats. Look at that change in paradigm on how they look at their business model. They said, if we are to consider ourselves as an airline company, we would have to measure ourselves based on airline metrics. Speed of service, plane should always be on time, baggage should always be there, stewardess should be 5, 6 and above, how many other things. However, we are in internet retailing, which means our biggest business concern is for our passengers, our would-be passengers, our customers, to buy a ticket in 5 clicks at the lowest possible price. And after that, our final concern is to bring our passengers from point A to point B alive. So we don't care if you don't like the service, our stewardess is not smiling at you, we don't train them that way. It was really just for internet retailing. So again, when we were looking at it, the Philippines, of course, in the year 2000, copy-pasted the model and of course started Cebu Pacific. What do you think is the, so you're familiar with Cebu Pacific? Do you know the very first slogan, the tagline of Cebu Pacific? What's the tagline? Huh? The very first tagline of Cebu Pacific. Now everyone can fly is the second. What is the first?
No one can fly.
The new Filipino time is on time. Cebu Pacific time, Cebu Pacific is always on time. You remember? Huh?
Not anymore.
Okay, so I'm sure all of you will not believe me, so I have to go to YouTube and look for that commercial so that you can see it. Okay? I'll run the commercial. Ito yung video.
Life, it's made up of hours, minutes, seconds, and no one knows the value of time like Cebu Pacific. Now you can keep your promises to be there for them, being on time. This is the new Filipino time, and it's called Cebu Pacific time.
Remember that? They have 3 commercials. It was when Cebu Pacific launched and said that the new Filipino time, Cebu Pacific time, right? That time when they launched website, under the website there's a percentage on time. It has to be 95% as agreed with DTI when they want to make claims. We will be 95% on time all the time. And that time, it was Cebu Pacific shouting to the world that they are going up against PAL because PAL is always late. Right? That was the acronym of PAL before. However, they realized that by going up against PAL, they cannot become a market leader. By virtue of a head-on competition, head-on matchup, they have to outspend PAL for three times, 3 years in a row. Very hard for them to become market leader. So, from being on time, they went, now everyone can fly. They went mass audience. And by virtue of that, opening the entire D category, which is the biggest, because 70% of the Filipinos are D market, not D. We don't have a broad C, we're a broad D market. And with that, now they become number 1. And if you look at it, they reframed when they reframed their business model from being an airline to also internet retailing. So when we looked at airlines, we said, how else in the marketing industry, how else will the airline industry evolve? That time when we were doing our marketing studies, we chanced upon a very interesting airline called Ryanair. Ryanair flew out from Ireland, so it's an Irish Airways. And how much is Ryanair? If you look at from London to Milan, Stockholm, Brest, Dublin, how much?
Free.
So when I teach business models to grad school, what I always tell them is that what happens when you wake up one day and your core offering becomes free. If you look at Ryanair, he disrupted the disruptors. Before, when you talk about the Air Asia, Tiger Airways, Cebu Pacific, when you look at Euromonitor, they're not classified as an airline. If you look at Euromonitor, they're classified LCC, low-cost carrier. They do not actually compare it with airline industries. Here, Ryanair disrupted it again and said, okay, what are we now? What industry are they in if it's free?
Advertising.
Where do they earn?
Advertising.
Affiliate marketing, yes, advertising. So from all of these, so everyone who clicks, they get something, right? But they're one of the first in the book of marketing to have executed what is called the freemium model. So premium with a freemium.
Premium.
What is a freemium model? A freemium model tells us that any basic offering is free. Every add-on you pay for. So in essence, if you want to fly Ryanair for free, you cannot bring anything except yourself. Anything you bring is weighed properly and you charge accordingly. Right? So again, it's the fairest way. Because for example, if you have automatic free 20 kilos and you only buy 5 and you only bring 5 kilos of luggage and someone has 20 kilos, you're technically subsidizing them if the price is free. So it's the fairest way if you think about it. So what we're seeing is that in the age of digital, gone are days of what we call communistic pricing, right? Everyone is given the same price. Also, if you want to fly Ryanair and you're only going overnight, if you really don't want to pay, your clothes for the next day, you just make pattern, right? You just wear it on top of your current clothes and do side by side. Right? But if you do Ryanair, again, they weigh everything, every service is paid for. In fact, they run a promo because they said, we're offering it for free, can you give us other ideas? And we're giving you 1,000 pounds. So these are some of the ideas that were presented. They charge 250 euros to read the safety cards, €1 to use the oxygen mask, 25 euros to use the emergency exit, and 50 euros for a bikini cabin. So they were explaining, they were having fun with it, but they said, okay, no pressure, no oxygen. The oxygen mask will not fall. You have to put $1 before it falls, right? Or else you share. Right? So I'm showing this example only to push the envelope of thinking, right? It doesn't mean they're earning a lot of money. In many cases, most aren't. But it's really to reframe how you look at your business and how you look at yourself. I like showing this picture to a lot of conglomerates and companies today because most of the companies today, massive ships, earning a lot of money, but then they realize that when they want to make a digital transformation, what I call a digital pivot, it is very hard. Right? So sometimes, if you look at in this day and age, because before you take pride in, we're part of a company where 80,000 employees. Now we get people who proudly say, I'm an employee of one, right? But I have a multi-billion business. That in fact, there's no shame there. There's much pride in how you by yourself are in this digital age. You are operating a business on your own. No? We've seen how things have been disrupted. Before 2010 was a pivotal year. Because that time, Globe, Smart and Sun, one of their biggest revenue margin items was the long distance call. Remember long distance, you have cards?
Yes.
Right? And you put it in the phone and you talk very fast. Right? No. Okay, 3 minutes done. Right? But today, you're seeing that Skype was the first to disrupt everything. And now, Skype riding on Globe, Smart and Sun and BLDT, right? No one is now doing long distance calls anymore. In fact, now, if you're doing a long distance call, what do you do? What do you use? Viber, Facebook, anything is free. Even the telco, which is the biggest advertiser 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, right? Where their bread and butter is literally talk and text, now has become an internet provider, right? Now you're buying Mbps, KBPS, right? So things have changed. They have now moved to become just purely an internet as a business. If you look at, for example, one of the hardest to make a pivot was actually banks. When I Google banks 1950s, 60s, and 70s, most of them have this picture. So you're a bit formal, you go to a bank and you line up. Then if you fast forward today, most of our banks, you still line up, sometimes with a number, and you wait. But what I always tell banks is that banks later on would have to change. If you look at the banks of Europe, like in Europe where you have Deutsche Bank, banks would have to become bars and coffee shops, where when you go to a bank, there's what we call tellerless banking.
Yep.
So what used to be the icon of a bank, which is a teller, is now purely mechanical. When you want to do anything that has to do with a teller, you do it with a machine. The banks is where you form and create relationships and investments decisions. So it has to become a bar and coffee shops, and you will see more and more of our banks having that. As an agency, we even partner with architectural and interior design firms because a lot of banks would contract us and say, okay, let's do the design of our new branch. And I would always tell them, you make sure that your branch is very nice and that's fine. However, if you think about it, the only people who go there are not your customers. These are the secretaries and the messengers. Why don't you invest time making sure that your app works? And maybe put your budgets on the servers and making sure that your app is 100% working, rather than that's where your customers are really anyway. So having said that, it's so easy to say that let's go and invest in the new businesses, the Spotifys and the Netflix of the world. In fact, I remember that when I was with ABS-CBN, when I joined them in 2013, one of our biggest businesses was actually CD sales, Star Music. By Iskanda, Daniel Padilla, they don't know how to sing, but their CDs sell like hotcakes. So CD sales were at all-time high, 2013, and then 2014 it just dropped. What happened? Because Spotify came in. And when Spotify came in, you don't need a CD anymore. You still buy CDs now?
No.
Only because you're all on Spotify already, right? And that time, I remember the management was telling me of ABS, okay, you're the head of digital, let's create the Filipino Spotify. And they would always tell me, don't underestimate for ABS. We can actually fight any brand because we have the infrastructure and we have the talents and we're mass media. We can actually influence a lot of the Filipinos to use our Spotify, whatever we will call it, and Spotify will not be able to come in. And what I did was the reverse. I said, let's not do that. Let's put all our songs on Spotify and let's earn there. And put all our songs on iTunes and YouTube and everything else. So what happened was that if you look at it, all-time high CD sales, it dropped 1 year. When we loaded all our music on Spotify, it went up way higher than traditional CD sales. Why? Because every time you play our music on Spotify, when you watch our videos on YouTube, we earn a few cents, 3-4 cents, dollars. Right? But then globally, everyone would be tuning in one way or the other. So our revenue just doubled very easily. And if you think about from a business perspective, like what I said, it was a good decision. Because if you look at today, most of you would be in Spotify. Half of you may not be paying ads. But if you look at Spotify as a business, it is actually losing a lot of money. Are all of you on Netflix?
No.
If you are all on Netflix, Netflix is also losing a lot of money. In fact, I don't even know by next year if Netflix would still be around. By virtue of, number one, they're losing a lot of money, their stock price has gone down, and now Disney and Fox is already coming in with their next Netflix killer. They're withdrawing the entire Disney and Avengers and Marvel and everything else from Netflix. So it's going to be, they will be creating their own Netflix. So it's going to be content, or would you be happy with Netflix originals? That remains to be seen. So like what you said, by end of next year, you might not have a Netflix account anymore. In the area of education, we've seen how things have changed. So for example, if you're familiar with Coursera, I'm sure if you are in the Excelli or anywhere else, you can actually learn here. Coursera disrupted the educational institutions by offering a lot of courses for free. Whether it's advanced salesmanship or advanced marketing, you can actually take up a course there. But even like what I've said, even the disruptor is now being disrupted. If you are familiar with Udacity, Udacity came in with a different model. They created the concept of what they call a nano degree. So nano, smaller degree, nano degree. And a nano degree, you can finish it in 3 to 6 months at a fraction of a price. The founder of Udacity was saying that he wasn't a graduate of college. And he said, why do you need to graduate college? By the time you graduate college, whatever you learn, half is already useless. when you go to the industry, right, we have to train you anyway. So why don't you just learn the skill that you really like and what you will need when you work? The strength of Udacity is that they partnered with institutions and corporate establishments. So for example, if you finish a nano degree of digital marketing, they partnered with Facebook, Google, and Hootsuite. So when you finish that, you're automatically offered a job by Google or by Facebook when you finish a nano degree in digital marketing. So you can see so many courses happening there. When I clicked on one of the nano degrees, for example, there was turn data into insights, was to become a data scientist. The course is 3 months long, and when you graduate after 3 months, you would have an annual salary in the range of 80 to 90,000 US. Okay, so that will be your salary, and the investment for the course is just around $500.
Okay.
So you're seeing this should be our Tesla actually, no, but we still have a long way to go. But this should have been very skill-based programming for Android, iOS, and this is actually what we're seeing already. A lot of our graduates right now, even some, because we're advertising, a lot of our average age is 24. So a lot of them, after graduating school and learning, they're actually trying to study and learn another skill using Udacity, using a nano degree. So what does this tell us? This is telling us that digital is more and more pushing nearer and nearer to our doorstep. Let me share with you an experience I had. A few months ago, I actually attended one of my MBA students, who's one of the heads of Mineski events and MET Mineski events, asked me to come to the tent in the pavilion and said, "Sir, come and I'll show you something." So when I entered, very surprised, it was jam-packed full of people. And what are they playing? Mobile Legends.
Mahal.
When I was looking at how things were being done, it was actually 5-on-5 players fighting against each other. They have a coach, they have alternate. And you have brands already sponsoring these players. Before, in our time, we used to be PBA, right? Philippine Basketball Association, San Miguel, Alaska, Ginebra. Right? And you're seeing, however, today, even the Basketball Association has a dwindling audience. This, when I went actually to the pavilion, Lepa, you have so many players, well, a lot of enthusiasts watching. So these are the players, and when they go in, their faces will be here. And after that, when they choose a player, do you play ML here? Right? If you play ML, then their characters will come and they will be fighting each other. The top two, who actually, the first and the second, would actually advance to the finals in Malaysia, and after that would be representing the country in the SEA Games by this December. So in
SEA Games.
By December, during the SEA Games, there will be 8 games that will be happening in the across San Plaza, the stadium there. They will be playing. I know Dota will be there, Mobile Legends, Tekken will be there. So there are 8 e-games that will be played across the Southeast Asia, fielding players there. In this tournament, the grand prize, of course, the final is not too bad, $1 million US.
Allah.
Right? For the grand prize, of course, the rest will be a bit less. No? But that's only Mobile Legends. The Dota grand prize is 50 million if you're talking about the global tournament. So not too bad. What we're seeing is that schools are now being disrupted, not only on the education front, but also on the sporting front, because esports is gaining so much ground that later on we will see all the schools, the UAAP and the NCAA, would have varsity teams of Mobile Legend players. And before, when you think about your kids, right, you don't support them playing games. It has become an art. In fact, it is so interesting when you watch them that when they went behind their seat, so you cannot bring your own device, so it's there, it's sanctioned. And when they're there, the coach was there, and they would exercise all of that at the same time. They would do finger stretching, they would do finger stretching, they would do powder, they would do all of these things all at the same time. So there is a regimen, and they take this actually very seriously. One of the top players is Akosi Dogi. If you're familiar with ML, you will know Dogi, right? He's one of the most popular commentators in Asia, and he just bought a 19 million house. That 19 million houses actually at least, I think, 5 to 10 players. And what he does is he does live streaming of content, live streaming of playing, and he is now actually training the next 10 players, and he is actually selling these players to sponsors. So now he's talking about the up and coming, the rising generation, the next generation of sports. So having put that into perspective, then we bring it closer to something very personal. This is my youngest daughter, Ellie. She is 7 years old, and one time I told my wife that it's a Sunday, and I told my wife, I need to go to Coffee Bean in the Viste. I need 3 hours, 9 to 12, do not disturb because I have budget planning and I have to do my budgets. My wife said, we're playing badminton with the 2 older ones, so Ellie, the youngest, is stuck with you. And I said, no, I don't want. But I said, no, just go with her. And I said, I don't like to be with her because she's very bubbly. She would, if I'm in a coffee shop, she would go to everyone and she would get their cookies. So I gotta go and I don't like to babysit. So I said, how do you make her just sit still? And my wife said, give her your iPad. And I said, okay, fine. So we went to Coffee Bean the Viste and I gave her my iPad. I said, do not move, just go there and do whatever you want. And lo and behold, for 3 hours, she was just like that. I was so fascinated, and that is why I took this picture from my phone. However, so I was happy. In 3 hours, I finished my budget. And then that is where all the next trouble started. After that, she began shouting and throwing tantrums. She started shouting, Daddy, I want fashion. I want fashion, I want fashion, I want fashion. I said, what's a fashion? I want fashion. She was crying, she doesn't want to eat, she doesn't want to sleep in the afternoon, all the way up to dinner, 6 hours, just crying, fashion, fashion, fashion. Eventually, I had to ask, I said, if you don't tell me what a fashion is, how could I give it to you? Eventually, she blurted out, toy, it's a toy. So I said, we go to a toy store, we went to a toy store, I said, okay, Miss, do you have a fashion? And I said, oh, we have a lot of fashion. I'm so happy. I said, okay, give her 10. So what is a fashion? It is the small thing, right? This small thing that when you open it, there's a wiggly toy inside, right? Well, I don't know what it is. So that time it was, toys natin before? Ziggy, but Ziggy. But there was like rubbery thing and you play. And she just opens it and plays with it. That's it. And she leaves it there already. And she's happy. Right? Very weird something. Okay. Next day was Monday. And because I live in the digital realm and handle almost a lot of brands on digital and social media, it is routinary for me to check all the social media accounts and YouTube accounts of all my clients. When I went to my iPad and I started checking my YouTube account for all the clients that I handle, my settings have changed. And that is when I realized, so everything was all about unboxing and fashion. And that is when I realized why my daughter was quiet. It was because for 3 hours, she was just watching fashions that are being open and open. And that she was already so much primed that she wanted to open her own fashion. And that was what we call in the principle of digital, the zero moment of truth. If you are a disciple of Procter & Gamble, they would say that in marketing there are 2 moments of truth. When you have a stimulus, when you do something, there's what we call the F mode, the first moment of truth when you are on the shelf deciding on the product. And the second moment of truth is when you use the product. The idea of digital is that now they introduced the term ZMOT, the zero moment of truth. And it says that in many cases, most of us, the decision point has already been made online. How many times when you are choosing for a restaurant or about to choose for a particular movie, you would check online and you have already made the decision. So that when you are in front of a shelf, when you're in front of a store, you already know what to do. You do not make the choice on the spot. You have already made the decision online. And that, when you talk about today, people aren't seeking marketing copy. If you look at the principle of ZMOT and our target market today, they're not looking for what you are saying in marketing. But it's all about the experiences of others. In many cases, a lot of the brands, rather than say something about themselves, what is most important in digital is to have people talk about it. And really, your testimonials are the most powerful in this day and age, rather than the brand saying what it is. Let me share you another similar anecdote, a connecting anecdote. I attended VidCon. VidCon is a conference in Anaheim, and it is attended by 20,000 people. 19,500 of them are below legal age. So VidCon, again, this is Anaheim Convention Center. So I was taking a picture from my phone. When I pan the other side, it's just across Disneyland. Okay, Disneyland. So what is this conference about? So you will see there a lot of people lining up in front. They were there for the longest time. What is this conference about? it is a conference where all the YouTube sensations gather. So here you will see that this lady in black, a smaller lady, is a YouTube sensation. This lady actually waited 8 to 10 hours just to have 1 minute to say hi. So when I was there in the morning, you will see all of them in the snake formation, sleeping on the floor. When the YouTuber came, they were so excited. They stood up and they sort of tried to meet the YouTuber. This was a conference where, again, I have my own paradigm shift because a lot of breakout rooms, all the speakers are all 25 years old and below. So us, 30 years old and above, we're downstairs taking notes. In fact, that time, I was with the vice presidents, the CEOs, the heads of marketing, head of digital of Endemol, HBO, Netflix, you name it, all the big brands. We were there taking notes and we were actually listening to them. The youngest speaker was 13 years old. And very interesting, because the moderator was saying, okay, tell us your story, right? And the 13-year-old was saying, well, I was about to commit suicide because life sucks. And I created my farewell video. And I got millions of views. And I realized I'm rich. So I don't want to kill myself anymore. So like, they were there like, okay, what do we write? Right? Now, in the closing keynote, so every day there's what we call a closing keynote speaker. The closing keynote speaker would always be an A-lister on YouTube, meaning top 5 in the world of YouTube. But they will not announce who it is, so it was a surprise. So the closing keynote for day 1 was actually Michelle Phan. So what happened was that we, the industry, were seated up front. When Michelle Phan came in, the massive ballroom, everyone was shouting and really clapping and cheering Michelle. Us, in front, we're saying, who's Michelle Phan? Who's Michelle Phan? Right? We're Googling her. Oh, very popular. We don't know her. She's a Malaysian American, 27-year-old. What does she do? Makeup, right? She does makeup.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Phan, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Think of me as your beauty bestie. I want all of you to see how beautiful you are, with or without makeup. Makeup gives you the chance to express yourself, to create any masterpiece you want, or you can dream of, and become any person you want to be. Life is too short to have one look. Experiment. Try lots of looks and find all the different sides of you.
She was so popular that L'Oreal made her the brand ambassador. After a year, they were not only satisfied with that, they even created her own cosmetic line called M. Michelle Phan. And in this talk, Michelle Phan was there. She was face-to-face with the global marketing director of L'Oreal. And the global marketing director of L'Oreal was saying that for the past 30 years, they've been trying to penetrate the teen audience because L'Oreal is associated with the older segment. They've been trying to penetrate the teen market, and they've been working with all the teen icons and Hollywood celebrities, but they were not successful. However, when they created and partnered and collaborated with M. Michelle Phan and created M. Michelle Phan, that is when their products started to fly off the shelf. But what was their biggest learning? Before, when they launched M. Michelle Phan, they had a L'Oreal at the bottom. What they found out was that when the smaller the logo of L'Oreal, the higher the sales. So they had to realize that M. Michelle Phan, and then at the back, made by L'Oreal. Right? And that is what one of their biggest learning is that sometimes for a brand to penetrate a new market, sometimes the brand has to take a back seat. Right? It doesn't always mean the bigger the logo, the better. The day before VidCon was actually the YouTube Partner Summit. It's one country, one representative, only 100 people in the room, 20 of the heads and executives of YouTube, and 80 from around the world, one country, one representative. That time I was with ABS-CBN, and by virtue of being the #1 YouTube channel in the Philippines, I represented the Philippines in that planning session, what they call the Partner Summit. It's a whole day of exploring and discussing what YouTube and content and everything. That time, I was during the break, I was just walking around. The CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, so that's how she looks, no? When she saw me, she got so excited. She ran to me. She said, "Oh, you're from the Philippines." No? So I have a Philippine flag here. He said, we really appreciate all the Filipinos watching YouTube because, as you know, you're top 10 in the world in terms of YouTube consumption. And I thought I was an ambassador. Thank you for giving us YouTube. I don't know what to say. And making my countrymen happy. But what she said after made me think. She said, you know, I would really like to meet your number one YouTube sensation. So deep within me, I said, who's our number one YouTube sensation? So I don't even know who our number one YouTube sensation is. So I had to look at her and say, okay, Susan, this is very embarrassing. I don't know who our number one YouTube sensation is. She was so surprised. She said, you don't know them? It's nice. So, just for context, the reason why I represent the Philippines was ABS-CBN is the number one YouTube channel in the Philippines. But true to what Susan said, 2 months after I got home from the trip, 2 pesky kids overtook me. So you will see that ABS-CBN, we're number one, we got 1 billion views. And then Kids Toys overtook us. The difference is I had 24,000 videos. How many videos did they have?
400.
Only 400. Right? Okay. Of course, for the record, I'm back to number one. But I had to tell all my people, do not go home, upload anything you can see. So now we have 48,000 videos for us to overtake them. Right? But I will tell you, just for context, the number one YouTube of the Philippines, of ABS-CBN, every year, would always be the Christmas Station ID. All the celebrities saying thank you. Charo, everyone else saying thank you, all the celebrities. Imagine my budget there. Because even if it's a 6-second shot of Piolo Pascual, there's still a makeup artist and everywhere else, and we have to ship everyone to wherever. Right? So it's quite expensive. But that single video would give me 15 million views. 15 million views, single video. The problem is that there is this video of Kids Toys. This innovation scorpion had 16 million views. Had 16 million views. So imagine that when I showed this to Charo Santos and Lauren Jogi and Connie Midanes, our heads, I said, no, how can this be better than us? How can this be better? Today, if you check on YouTube, this video is now at 400 million views. Almost half of Gangnam Style, which is the world record. 400 million views. You want to see the video?
Yes.
It's Lausia, by the way.
Hi everyone! Welcome back to Kids Toys channel. Today we are going to open
Unboxing, mga ganun.
small drop. And this innovation scorpion. Let's open them! You first! Me
Sa mga
first!
bata.
Drop it.
Okay, di ba nakakasara? Okay, I'll mute this and I'll explain. So imagine when I showed this to our CEOs and our head of the production, head of the, our award-winning, right, directors and producers. And they said, it's so ugly. Look, the face is cut, everything is cut, no background music, everything is wrong, lighting is wrong, everything is wrong. And I showed them, oh, how can this be higher than us in terms of views? Right? Just for context, the father is a grade 1 public school math teacher living in Pangil, Laguna. He realized he cannot sustain the 2 daughters just by being a grade 1 public school math teacher. So he researched online and he found out you can earn a little something by putting content on YouTube. So he researched and found out unboxing has high value in terms of content production. So what he would do is that every other weekend, he would take a trip from Laguna, 3-hour trip to Mega Mall, and he would buy toys. And after that, another 3-hour trip back to Laguna, and then he would give it to the 2 daughters and say, open it and I will handicap you. And these would be the output of the videos. Let's look at the numbers. If you look at their 7-day view, so every month he would upload 8 to 10 videos of something like that. How many views are they getting for 7 days? 28 million, right? So let's round it down for easy math. 25 million. If you do 25 million a week, how many millions do you get in a month? Times 4. 100 million views. What people don't know is that YouTube pays creators on minimum, on average, $1 for every 1,000 views. So, by virtue of having 100 million views, the family is now earning no less than 100,000 US or 5 million pesos a month.
No.
They have converted their shanty to a 3-story house. And 2016, they're actually earning, he earned actually 1.8 million US, close to 80 million pesos. When I partnered with him and launched, so I actually launched what is called Adobo Studios now, or Chicken Pork Adobo. I handle all the YouTubers in the Philippines. I manage them, I do a revenue sharing with them. When I launched them, Sunny Tendilla, the father, actually was my number one guest of honor because he was the number one in the Philippines. Imagine that when he came to my press con dressed in old polo shirt, black socks, white shoes that are dirty. That when he came, in ABS, by the way, you have to do it formal when you go to ABS anytime. When he went to the ABS, when he was about to enter, the guard told him, "Ay, sir, yung lingkod kapamilya sa kabilang gate." The charity foundation is on the other gate. So they didn't know. So I had to run down and apologize. And said, I was telling the guard, he's richer than all of us combined. So Sunny Tendilla now is not one of the most revered person in the YouTube community, especially in Singapore. Now he trains all the trainers. Because all the trainers would know the algorithm, but he would always say, I beat the algorithm. Because I know what content works by virtue of the pulse. I also know how to properly use the keywords. So when you search, I know the keywords, I know the thumbnail. But there's a video, I know the thumbnail, and he knows the entire strategy. So he now actually is now doing a lot of training for all of the YouTubers, whether in the Philippines or even the trainers in Singapore. Very interesting for someone who used to be massive in debt and loans, and he cannot even say. He was saying me when he was starting his story, he can't even feed his family, and he was really just borrowing money from people. Now he was so popular that Disney, through Maker Studios, actually even wrote to them and made them an offer and said that before any Disney toy goes to market, I would like your two daughters to open it first.
Wow.
Right? And we will pay you for it. You know what Sunny said? He said, no company can dictate what my two daughters can open, only me. Right? And that is his mindset and framework. When you talk to him, he's such a simple guy, but you know he has something. Very intelligent. Right? Math prophet. Right? And one of our gems, in the YouTube community. Okay. So that is what I want to actually espouse and emphasize to all of you. I always tell people that if, for example, you are a mass comm student maybe in UP and your final thesis would be the innovation scorpion, you think you will pass and graduate. And yet you realize that by today, by whose standards are we judging our work and by whose standards are we judging? If you look at people. Today, if you look at the natives, I remember when I was in an ABS-CBN planning, we had so many people say, Charo Santos, I was talking about digital immigrants and natives, right? And at that time, when I talk about immigrants and natives, Charo Santos stood up and said, Donald Trump. And he looked at the entire leadership, all 200 of the entire leadership of ABS-CBN and said, and asked, who here are immigrants? And this is the entire leadership of ABS. Everyone raised their hands. And he said, so who here are natives? No one raised their hands. There was silence. He looked at our chairman and said, Gabi, you have a problem. You have immigrants creating products for the natives. And by doing that, right, so we had to make a very pivotal decision that now in ABS-CBN, if you are to join, if you are to look at our management committee of the different business units, we have to make sure that there is a native in the boardroom. We have to make sure that there is a native as part of the planning session in our strategy session. Because we do not want to keep forcing what has been there before, what has been successful before, is not going to bring us to our success some years down the line. Even what we do marketing, if you look at all the models, today I sit in the strategy session of so many major companies. All of them talk about the same problem, declining sales, being eaten up by the smaller, more agile parties, those who are doing traditional marketing. Even us in the agency setup, if you are familiar with how an advertising agency works, the Mad Men in Netflix, for the past 60 years, our bread and butter is the creation of a television commercial, a TV commercial. The 30-second, we earn millions. Today, when you talk to our client, they would say, oh, we don't want to pay you that much. Kaya namin, our intern can do a video and put it on TV. Yeah. Right? And right now, we're also making a pivot. I realized that half of my team, when I joined Dentsu 2.5 years ago, I had to fire everyone. Those who do not want to make a digital pivot. We have, they're very good with TV, but my business moving forward, they have to think digital. Instead of creating 30-second commercials, we have to be an expert in creating 6-second commercials, 6-second ads where if you talk about how hard our product is and how hard our job is, we create something you do not like, which is a commercial, which is something you skip every time. Imagine how we feel if you skip our ads, right? But you don't think about that, right? We create something you do not like. And one of the initiatives we've done, and I'll show you my last example, I know I'm over time, is a DM Lab. A DM Lab is actually an initiative by Dentsu. So in many cases, we actually create what is called an emotion analyzer. When you look at, this is something you wear in your head, and we were able to actually check your emotions. So let's do this video right here. Something we launched in Thailand. Emotion analyzer is you put that and you click it in your ear. Our brain, the cerebral cortex, right, and our many parts of the brain, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're excited, when you're scared, actually different nerves are activated, and that's what it tracks. It's like a brain stethoscope, and that's how we're able to activate that. By virtue of the emotion analyzer, we use that for testing. For example, with our Uniqlo products, Uniqlo being a Japanese brand, the wear of your clothes, the first thing, what they call unang bagsak. We already test if you like it or not. When we look at one of our clients, Nissen's ramen, Nissen's noodles, right, the cup noodles, the noodles, it's not about the taste, but the first scent. So when you open it, it's hot, and when you open it, that's how taste is determined, what you smell. So that's very important. We check immediately your emotion. So we don't ask people, you like it, you don't like it. So we know immediately. In terms of an advertising, in 6-second advertising, we show advertising. Before the old way of testing, we show an ad, okay, do you like it or not like it? Now, we can even look at 1 second, 2 seconds. If in the 3rd second it falls, we know you don't like the 3rd second. That you actually, that's when you want to skip the ad already. We would change the 3rd second, increase the music, or change the entire board altogether, so that we sustain you for that time. So that's the emotion analyzer. We were able to check it using your neurotransmitters. In fact, when we launched this in the BGC, I have one in the office, not like this here. When we launched this in the BGC, one of the innovation summits, we had a lot of passers-by. You want to try it? You had people try it. So if you're a girl, we show the pictures of different guys, and you will see, or again, if you're a guy, we show a picture of different girls, and you will see it going like that, whether you like or type yung guy or not, right? But one interesting thing was at the tail end, we thought that the emotion analyzer broke down. Because there was a guy who wore it. We showed them so many pictures of girls, it was like that. And then accidentally we went to the guy and then I said, okay, they didn't tell us, but of course now we know. So what we're seeing is that now with digital and with technology, things are now becoming more and more converged, right? And you have to know how to use technology to your advantage. So having said that, I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but let me end with a quote by Robert Murdoch. He said, Like many of you in this room, I'm a digital immigrant. My 2 young daughters, on the other hand, will be digital natives. They'll never know a world without ubiquitous broadband internet access. We may never become true digital natives, but we can and must begin to assimilate to their culture and way of thinking. So whether you like it or not, the world belongs to the native. But what I always tell people, remind people, that in the end, nothing would be an immigrant can digital. Because your perspective, your experience, your thinking is still different. And you are the ones who are able to bridge the gap. Right? Once you understand digital, you can actually put that forward and make it work better in this digital age. So with that, thank you for your attention.
Yes.